Hey YouTube, so my job for today is to work on changing a water pump off a 2007 Range Rover Sport V8, and I think this should be also the same job for that kind of region LR3 as well. But this is what's failed. Interestingly on mine, I'm not sure how common this is. The actual spindle here, the actual shaft that drives the this is where the pulley goes for the fan drive, and then this drives the shaft. I've actually tried to keep all the bolts in the same position as when they came out. So that shaft actually snapped, and I'll show you that in a second. So that's my job. In order to get to this, I had to remove the front of the intake manifold. I had to remove part of the throttle body, and I had to remove the fan from the radiator, and that gives you plenty of space to work. So let's take a look inside, and I'll show you all the bits that I've had to remove to get to this point. Okay, so this is what my workspace looks like right now. You can see there's the front of the throttle body. Throttle body is over there. What you're seeing here is the space where the thermostat housing is, and this is the thermostat housing. So this has to come off, and so there's a bunch of cooling lines at this point. I think it actually might be that way. Yeah, that way. This has to come off, so you have to remove some of the cooling lines. So it's going to be a case of you're going to definitely lose at least a little bit of coolant, but that actually bolts on to these here. With these bolts had to come out, and there was an O-ring seal here with a plastic clip. Unfortunately, I lost the plastic clip, but that sits the housing, the thermostat housing there. The thermostat housing is plastic. I actually have a video of replacing that not long ago, so it was not that long ago that I was in here doing similar stuff, and someone did post a comment. I think it was saying that I should replace my water pump, and now I know why. So water pump was the original one, 175,000 miles or so, and it's failed, but in a rather unusual way, or at least I thought it was unusual. Maybe it's not that unusual. So on the front of the water pump, you will see this pulley. So this pulley actually sits on the front of the water pump, and you can see the failure there. That bar has snapped off. So the issue that I had was that I was driving along, and I noticed that my battery light had come on. No other indications of a problem until I got to a corner, and then realized that I had no power steering. So that could have been a little bit dangerous. I didn't have any power steering, and I think that might be because part of the power steering is powered by a belt somewhere, like maybe it's hydraulic, but the hydraulic system is belt powered. So that's what my issue was. When I looked inside, I realized that there's a belt here, and this belt had come off, and so I started to think that it might be related to that, and then I saw that the pulley had come off. So the next thing I had to do after removing that part, I talked about the fan having to come out. That's a little bit of a job. Sometimes the fan doesn't want to come off. The fan is actually held in place with a 36 millimeter wrench. 36 millimeter bolt, and so you have to put a 36 millimeter socket down here, and then you have to hold the pulley in place somehow. So there's a tool you can get for that. It's actually the same as the BMW tool, and that came with a 32 millimeter wrench, which I don't need because I don't have a BMW, so I don't have the 32 millimeter fan clutch. But this is the 32 millimeter fan clutch tool. I can't remember which side it was, but anyway, that holds on to the pulley, so the front of the pulley, which is fallen down here. But if you imagine that this has to be held in place, so you use the fan clutch tool to hold these bolts in place. So that wasn't too bad, partly because my fan clutch had been my fan had been taken off not that long ago, so it really wasn't that stuck. I've got something down there to catch the majority of the coolant from moving around these hoses. I've moved some hoses down and out of the way, but I haven't drained all of the coolant out because I'm only working on stuff that's at the top of the engine, so I'm not going to lose all my coolant. One thing I did have an issue with, I watched a video online that showed that this pulley here that sits on to this idler, this pulley assembly or whatever, it sits onto that shaft there, and this was actually stuck on really good. You're supposed to just be able to remove the 3 bolts, and I did remove those 3 bolts. They're over here, but removing those 3 bolts did not make this come off. So this had to be kind of pried off, and I was a little bit nervous about that. But the reason we have to do that is because to get to the belts at the back, my other job is to replace all of the belts, and there's 2 of them. One of them snakes behind here, and one of them snakes through here. In order to get this belt out, this assembly has to come off. And you can't access these 8mm bolts. I'm pretty sure it's 8mm. Let me just double check. Yeah, you can't get to these unless that pulley is removed, and you can't get the and so for me, getting that pulley off was a little bit harder than I was expecting. I was hoping it was just gonna just pop off, and I put some anti-seize rust stuff down here, but you can kind of see there's some rust here, and I think that actually kind of bonded itself to the back of this, and it was just a real pain to get off. But I pried it off with a screwdriver, a big heavy-duty screwdriver. You can kind of see a little bit of scratching there caused by that, and that was a bit of a worry, but I think it's going to be okay. So I've got to remove these 3 I think there's 3, yes, just 3 8mm. Then this bracket will come off, and then I'll be able to get to all of my belts with any luck. I've already removed all of the 4 bolts holding in the water pump to the engine. It's just being held in by crud at this point, I guess. But on the back of this, there will be a new gasket, which is still in the box. So you can see that there are a couple of bolts that you don't want to take off. You don't want to take off this bolt and this bolt. That actually keeps the water pump in place, holds it together. So if this job for you is also replacing the water pump and not replacing the gasket inside the water pump, if you're replacing the whole unit, I mean, and maybe you should, because it's maybe 150 bucks. Then you do not want to remove this bolt or this bolt, because that's going to just cause your water pump to fall to pieces. You want to remove these 4 bolts here, these longer ones, and then you should be able to pry this off, which I can't right now, but with a screwdriver I should be able to get that off. And in order to get that off, you do need to have this pulley off, because this pulley won't come forward because this is in the way, or at least that seemed to be the case on mine. But I knew I was going to have to take this off anyway. So that's primarily the job. You can see other videos online about how to remove the fan. So I would definitely recommend watching a video on how to remove the fan. And there's going to be some other videos on how to replace the belts. But that's just basically how to get to the water pump. And what the job is going to entail. So hopefully that's useful for someone. If it's not, it will be useful for me if I ever have to do this again. But yeah, thanks for watching.